Today is a day we hope to learn a lot about the Silver and Black as they welcome in the 49ers for a joint practice. But who will this practice benefit the most? Players or position groups? Maybe a combination of both. We talk about that plus a lot more on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 14th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. Show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day by way of the YouTube page. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well, as many of you do, at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, you know the number, 707-654-4693. If you've never called in, you only have 3 minutes. So once you hear that beep, boom, you got 3 minutes to make it happen. Now, if you get it in a little quicker, under 3 minutes, that's fantastic. That means we can get a little bit more calls and texts in if possible. But remember, you only have a 3-minute time limit. Of course, text messages, well, that can go on as long as you want. But we'll try to squeeze in as many as possible. Got a lot of great feedback on today's show. We'll do that as we close things out. Segment number 3. Segment number 2, I had a really good conversation with Chris Canty. He's a Super Bowl champ, played for the Cowboys, was drafted by the Cowboys, matter of fact, played for the Giants and also the Baltimore Ravens, part of ESPN's Unsportsmanlike alongside Evan Cohen, and Michelle Smallman does a fantastic job, one of my favorite guys on ESPN radio. He joined my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, on Wednesday, and we had a big conversation about all things NFL, but had a lot of good conversation about the Raiders as well, as he's a guy that, unlike other people, really believe that the Raiders are going to have a really good team, be a lot more competitive than some people believe. So Chris Canty, you'll hear that part of the conversation where we discuss the Silver and Black. You'll hear that coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, and it really has to do with today's practice when the Raiders and the 49ers square off in their joint practice ahead of their preseason game number 2 at Allegiant Stadium. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Again, practice 8:45 a.m. this morning to 10:50 this morning. It is outdoors, and fans are welcome in. So this will be the last opportunity that fans have a chance to see their team, and, of course, it should be interesting, and I'm hoping that anyone goes out there. I know it's going to be hot. I know the 49er fans are going to be there as well, so you know how that goes. There's going to be a lot of intermingling in the stands, so I'm hoping everyone keeps cooler heads and just enjoys the action that they see on the field. But 8:45 a.m. to 10:50, that's practice open to the media. We'll speak to head coach Pete Carroll, quarterback Geno Smith, and others following practice around 10:50. But let's jump into what really matters. Who is this practice going to benefit the most? Right? We saw preseason game number 1, and we've all kind of chalked that up to preseason game number 1. We've seen and talked about what the Raiders have done in practice against each other. I'll tell you this. All these guys are ready to go up against somebody else. These guys are tired of hitting guys that have the same jerseys on as them. They're tired of going up against these guys in practice. They are so just irritated with each other, not in a bad way, but they're just tired of going up against their own jerseys. They're ready to welcome in someone else, and who better than the San Francisco 49ers to bring them in. Plus, we all know that they have a very talented team. They're a team that every year is expected to make a deep run, not only in the regular season, but also the postseason. So who's going to get benefited the most from today's practice? I'm looking at first the trenches. I think that's the easy call. The trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. We've had a ton of discussion about the offensive line. We've had a ton of discussion about Jordan Meredith and JPJ and where they're at. And 2 days in a row now, JPJ has practiced. He didn't practice on Sunday. He was dealing with a rib issue, but he practiced on Tuesday and also practiced on Wednesday. Both days were indoors. But this is a really good test for Colton Miller. It's a really good test for Dylan Parham. It's a really good test for Jordan Meredith, JPJ, and DJ Glaze. That's the first team offensive line. And that feels like it's going to be, outside and barring an injury, going to be the first team offensive line as it goes into the regular season. I know Alex Kappa is listed as Orr, but now 4 practices in a row he hasn't gone, and then Antonio Mafi's behind him. But I feel like that we're pretty much understanding who the offensive line is going to be. But knowing that the 49ers have some dudes along that defensive line that can definitely get to the quarterback, this will be a really good test. right, to see what this offensive line could do. And ideally, in this practice, this is, in my mind, this is how I'm hoping it plays out. They get a good 70, 75 plays in, of practice where they want to focus in on the lines, the trenches, right, the running game, obviously, the corners, and they just get a lot of really good reps in between the two teams. And then on Saturday, a lot of these guys that we expect to be starters and big-time contributors for this team don't have to go, where you'll end up seeing a lot of the young dudes go out there and have a chance to put out some game film. That's what I'm hoping happens. I'm hoping they have a really good practice today. There's been times where the Raiders have had joint practices, and it's been 2 days. This is just one. They're off on Friday, so they've got to get as much work in as possible. But the trenches, first and foremost, offensive line and defensive line, right? The 49ers don't have, the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, but they do have some dudes along that offensive line that could protect Brock Purdy and open up some holes in the running game. So I'd like to see the defensive line be able to get a little bit of penetration. What we saw on Thursday was a guy like Drew Lock have all kind of time. He just sat back in the pocket. He ordered a pizza. He went and got some a drink out of the fridge. He did whatever he wanted. He took a bathroom break and then decided to throw the rock. Like, they had no pressure put on them on Thursday with the Seahawks. The Seahawks just kind of sat back there and did whatever they wanted to do. I want to see this defensive line. We know what Max Crosby brings to the table, but I'm interested in Malcolm Kuntz. Remember, this is a guy that missed all last year with the torn ACL. How was he? Is he going to be looking good in live reps, right? That's a guy to focus in on. And, of course, the defensive tackle room. Adam Butler hasn't been there the last couple of days as he's dealing with the family situation. I hope that he's back. I would love to see him get some reps against the 49ers, but obviously if he's dealing with the family situation, we don't know if it's, a bad situation. We don't know what the situation is, so I don't want to speculate. But if it's family related, obviously nobody's going to sweat him, and he'll get back whenever he gets back. I just would like to see him go up against the 49ers. But that defensive line, offensive line is going to be first and foremost what we pay attention to. We'll start to learn a lot about this team based off what the trenches are able to do. And I know it's easy to say, well, let's see what the running backs can do. See if Ashton Jeanty can do better than what he did on Thursday night. I don't think that this is going to be one where it's going to be a heavy run game. Now, you're going to see Jeanty run the rock. You're going to see Sincere McCormick run the rock, Zamir White run the rock, Dylan Lobby run the rock. But to me, I feel like this is going to be more of the passing game and pass protection. You'll see, like I said, you'll see pockets of the run game, and you'll see if the Raiders' offensive line can open up some holes. But I don't think that they're just going to, slug it up there in the line of scrimmage and hope for the best. I also think that they're trying to get Ashton Jeanty to the starting gates, right? Week 1. I don't think he's a guy that they're going to put a lot of work in on right now, put a lot on his wear and tear on his body right now, because he's going to do so much heavy lifting when it comes to the regular season. But you'll see some passes thrown to him. I do expect that. And, obviously, like I said, Zamir White, Sincere McCormick, Dylan Lobby, Raheem Mostert, right? Not necessarily in that order. But those guys, you pay attention to those dudes as well. Defensively as well, I talked about the defensive line, the cornerback room, right? Stokes, Porter, Caillou Blue Kelly, Jeremy Chin, right, from the safety position, coming up and playing that big nickel position. Isaiah Palamao even, right? Can he continue to evolve and build off what he was able to do on Thursday where he came up with that interception? Because some of these guys make some plays, right? But the cornerback room, secondary in general, I'd like to see them stick with these wide receivers, because there is no Jacorian Bennett. We know that. That's been a lot of questions. Pete Carroll was very comfortable moving on with Bennett because he was happy with what he saw. I want to see these guys continue to evolve. I do think that they're going to be good, but we've seen the competition kind of ramp up a lot more when it comes to the secondary, especially across from Stokes. Like, Porter was the no doubt about it, number 2 corner, and then all of a sudden a guy like Caillou Blue Kelly stepped up. Then you saw a guy like JT Woods step up. And again, I don't think a day like today is going to be big for JT Woods. I think that'll be more a Saturday. But these guys that I mentioned, I think that could be really big for them. And then finally, I think a guy like Jack Besh, right, and Trey Tucker, those two guys I'm really paying attention a lot to as well. And really Trey Tucker, because he's been so heavily involved, especially this week in practice. Going back to Saturday, he really got involved in the indoor facility. Then I saw him get involved on Sunday, and it just seems like every single day he's gaining more and more confidence. You could tell he's confident in what he does. And this is a guy that's really been, thugging it out really his whole career, right? Year one, he couldn't see, right? We found out that he couldn't even see year one. He was trying to track the ball, and everything was blurry. Maybe the best thing that Devontae Adams did for the Raiders while he was with the Raiders is tell Trey Tucker go get LASIK surgery, right? Because he did that, and then year 2 he was actually able to see. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, after there was a time in year 1 of Trey Tucker, he asked Devontae while they were at Allegiant, can you see what that scoreboard says? And he says, yeah. And he says, why, can't you? Well, it's blurry. And Devontae said, wait, hold on, man. You need to go get your eyes checked. Come to find out, he needed to have them adjusted, so he went and got LASIK, and now he sees crystal clear. And then year 2, right, even though year 1 was a struggle because he couldn't see, year 2, they really didn't use him very well. And even when they did try to stretch the field to him, they really used him as a one-trick pony. But when they tried to stretch the field to him, the quarterback either couldn't get it to him, they underthrew him, whatever the case may be, he just wasn't able to go out there and perform like he wanted to. Now also he's going to year 3 and he's got Chip Kelly as the OC, and he's going to bring some college concepts in. He's going to bring NFL concepts in. I mean, this guy is a professional play caller, and he knows exactly how to use his personnel. And what I mean by that is going back to mandatory minicamp, I remember asking Chip Kelly, how have you seen football evolve from a play calling standpoint? At one point, there was never college concepts in the game. Now there's all kind of concepts. He said, man, I watched college football. Obviously, he was a coach there, so got a lot of college concepts. Obviously, he was a coach in the NFL, multiple stops, so he's got a lot of concepts there. But he's like, man, I watched the CFL, I watched the UFL, I watched any kind of football, and anything I see that I like, that I feel like I have the personnel that can execute it, I'm going to set it up. Right? And if I don't have the personnel, I'll hold that and put it in my back pocket until I do have the personnel. Well, he's got a guy in Trey Tucker that has not been used very well, in my opinion, so far in his career. There is nothing that should stop this team from just hitting him with a quick hitter and letting him get behind a couple guys that are willing and able to block, like a Big Mike, like a Jacoby Myers, like a Jack Besh. Let those guys get out there and start blocking in front of him and let him go pick up 10, 15 yards. That's a first down. That's moving the chains, right? That's smart football. You know, and we see it all the time, like I said, in the college game, and you see it really creeping into the NFL as well. Trey Tucker could be used so many different ways besides just go routes, and it seems like that's all they've really used him for so far in his career, and he really hasn't had the guys to get him the ball. Now, with that being said, the go route's not out of his game. We saw on Wednesday, we saw a beautiful, and I mean beautiful, deep ball from Geno Smith to Trey Tucker. It was about a 60-yarder. Boom, completion, right? Touchdown. Looked fantastic. Geno has the arm to get it. It looks like it's so effortless. He just flips the wrist, gone, right? And then, of course, Trey Tucker can get down there. It's funny, on Wednesday, we were standing there in the indoor facility, and Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton Jr. lined up on the same side of the field with each other. And you know, just it's like if I'm the defense, I'm thinking, uh-oh, what am I going to do? Right? I've got Trey in the slot, and I've got Dante outside. And they can flip-flop those positions, right? I mean, they're able to do that. And if I'm a DB, I'm thinking, man, pick my poison. This is speed on speed right here. This is nothing but speed. What's going to happen? And I remember I was talking to Kadri Ishmael because he's back in town watching his son perform and try to make the team. And I said, man, you see those two speedsters lined up on the same side of the field? If you're a defense, what are you going to do? He said, pray. Pray that they don't throw the ball your way because someone's getting burnt. I mean, those are two guys with incredible speed. So the way that these formations are being set up, we saw Jack Besh have a fantastic day. I'd love to see Jack build off that. Remember, he's a second-round guy. He's a guy that a lot of people have high expectations for, but we haven't really talked about him because Dante Thornton Jr. is the big playmaker, and we talked a lot more about him. I'd love to see Besh going up against a team like the 49ers that we know is a physical team. I'd love to see Besh be able to have himself a day, similar to what he had on Wednesday at the practice facility. If he can do that, especially with his physicality, that's what I like about Besh the most. He obviously can catch the ball. That's not a problem, right? He can run the routes. That's not a problem. He's very confident in that. He is a physical dude, and if he could use that physicality to not only block, but just be, you know, a guy that runs through some tackles, makes it difficult for that arm tackle. He's also a guy that doesn't mind going across the middle. Like, that could be a really big asset for this Raiders offense. I would love to see it against a team like the 49ers. It's got some dude, you may have heard of him, Fred Warner, playing that linebacker role. Yeah, he'll probably have something to say about anything crossing the middle of that field. And so that's something to pay attention to. Can this Raiders offense mess with and confuse this 49ers linebacking core, right, led by Fred Warner, who's one of the best, if not the best linebacker in the league? So those are all elements that I'll be paying attention to. Trenches, offensive line, defensive line, the cornerback room, and, of course, some of the young wide receivers want to pay attention to those guys as well. And, again, hope that you see this team go out there and really put a lot of good work on film so then they don't have to have all their guys out there on Saturday, right? They can have some of them out there, obviously, but don't have to have the majority of them. They can allow a lot of the young guys to get a lot of burn, the Cam Millers, right? I mean, Aiden O'Connell, he's going to get some burn today as well, but Saturday should be a Cam Miller day, right, where he gets at least a half of game, right? Shedrick Jackson, Action Jackson, I call him. He should get a lot of burn coming up on Saturday. Guys like that, right? JJ Pegues, I got a chance to talk to him Wednesday after practice. He should get a lot of burn coming up on Saturday. Like a lot of these young dudes who you feel like are a little bit further down the rotation and on the depth chart. Like I mentioned Kadri Ishmael, his son, Kadir. He should be able to get some burn where you're not seeing Brock Bowers. You're not seeing Big Mike. You're seeing, Ian Thomas maybe get the first drive and then Kadir get the rest, right? I mean, it's guys like that. That's what it should look like if they're able to handle their business today. But this is exciting. This is going to be fun. This will be the first, I feel like, real test for this Raiders team in training camp this year, just to kind of let you know where they are, where they stack up against a team that we all expect to be really, really good. Coming up in segment number 2, you'll hear from the big fella, Chris Canty. We call him the resident Super Bowl champ on ESPN Radio as part of Unsportsmanlike with Evan Cohen and Michelle Smallman. He joined my radio show on Wednesday. Really good conversation. You'll hear the part that we talk about the silver and black. We'll do that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to let you know that this episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. A lot of shows are playing Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. And there's a lot of new updates that they are rolling out. 28 years of fantasy football greatness. That's what Yahoo Fantasy, that's what they're celebrating. And so to help celebrate that, they are dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season right around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for great announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to let you hear a part of the conversation I had on Wednesday on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, on Raider Nation Radio 920 with the big fella, Chris Canty. On ESPN Radio, we call him the resident Super Bowl champ. He calls himself that, but I like to call him that as well. Really good dude, one of my favorites on ESPN Radio. He's on Unsportsmanlike with Evan Cohen and Michelle Smallman. They do the morning show, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. Pacific time. And so he joined my show on Wednesday to talk all things NFL. We probably talked for about 15 or so minutes, but we started out the conversation talking all things Raiders. He's been really high on the Raiders, thinking they're going to be a lot more competitive than a lot of people believe. But here's that part of the conversation. We're talking joint practices, Pete Carroll, the offense under Chip Kelly, and even the AFC West. Here you go, Chris Canty and myself from my Wednesday radio show. The Raiders have joint practice with the 49ers tomorrow. For you, when you played, you were a long time in the league. How beneficial were these joint practices? What should we be looking for in this practice tomorrow?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for the teams to get great work, and for the Raiders specifically, their organization that's trying to form an identity. And knowing how Pete Carroll likes to get down, he wants to have a team that's physical in the trenches, that runs the football, that stops the run. And there will be no better test for him in the preseason than the San Francisco 49ers. So I love the fact that the Raiders having joint practices, get that good work in without putting your quarterback in harm's way, without putting Geno Smith at risk. So I love the idea of joint practices. Now, you need both sides to cooperate. You know, you don't want to spend more time. You don't want to spend more time fighting and breaking up squabbles than you are actually getting plays in and being able to get things on tape. So I think that's the key when it comes to joint practices, guys actually knowing how to practice. But there's a healthy mix of veterans on both teams, so I don't think that will be the issue.
You have been around the league for a long time. You've seen a lot of different coaches, have a lot of different philosophies. What is it about Pete Carroll that seems like, even at his age, which people bring up all the time, he's able to get it and get the most out of his players, even the young guys that are just getting into the league?
His energy, man, that is what separates Pete Carroll. He's just uncanny when it comes to his energy, how infectious it is, how genuine it is. And that's the thing that folks have got to understand. players respond to authenticity. It's the ultimate currency nowadays. Well, I guess second to attention, but players respond to that authenticity. And so for Pete, he's just a naturally energetic person. He has this enthusiasm that is unknown to mankind. And so I think that's the thing that, allows him to get the most out of his players. That's the thing that gets his guys to respond more often than not in a positive way. So I'm excited to see what the Raiders are going to be in 2025. I think they're going to be much better than most people expect.
How do you see this Geno Smith, Chip Kelly, and Ashton Jeanty offense operating?
Running the football a hell of a lot. I've never seen a Pete Carroll offense or a Chip Kelly offense that didn't lead with the run game.
Right.
That's who they are. I mean, people always talk about what Chip Kelly was as a head coach in the NFL. Say what you want. He led a team to the playoffs, and that team ran the hell out of the football.
Right.
So that's what I envision. That's why they drafted Ashton Jeanty with the 6th overall pick. That's who they want to be. They're going to be a run and play action team. It's something that Geno Smith does very well, operating off of the play action. I'm curious to see exactly what they do from a scheme standpoint with their run game and how they marry that. Is it more inside-outside zone? Is it more hardball runs with gap blocking? I think that's the level of intrigue that we're going to have once the regular season rolls around. But conceptually, it's going to be heavy run with play action down the field.
I love what you said about Jeanty the other day on Unsportsmanlike, where you said that he is a BYOB, or a bring your own blocker. We actually wrote that on our window in the radio station studio. I just wanted to make sure I remembered that. That is fantastic. What is it about Jeanty that stands out, as you mentioned, him being a bring your own blocker guy?
Phenomenal vision, phenomenal burst to the hole, and standing contact balance. This is somebody that gets a ton of yards after contact. 2,700 yards rushing last year. Over half of that was after contact. So this is a guy that is a physical runner, doesn't turn down from the contact, can be great in between the tackles, but he can also be great out in space. He's got enough in his bag where he can make people miss, and he can be a house call on any given play. So I think that's an element that was missing out of the Raiders offense, a guy that can be a home run threat from anywhere on the field, and a guy that doesn't have to have the play blocked up exactly perfect in order to have a successful play. Now, the measure of a great running back is not how many 60 or 70-yard runs he makes. It's how many of those runs that would have went for no gains or negative yards that he's able to turn into a positive. I think that's the thing that's probably most impressive about Ashton Jeanty, is that this is a guy that understands the value of a 4-yard run. Right. And so I'm excited to see him as a volume ball carrier once we get into the regular season. I don't think that they're going to put many miles on him in the preseason, because this is going to be a guy that should touch the ball at least 25 times a game.
One more question about the Raiders, the division games, right? They were 0-6, CC, and that's just not acceptable. How difficult do you see this AFC West being, since 3 teams from this division made the playoffs a year ago?
It's the best division in pro football. It starts with the head coaches, right? I mean, you got all guys that at the end of their career could be wearing gold jackets. That's how competitive this division is. So, I think that's going to be the big challenge. That'll tell us whether or not the Raiders have turned the corner. That'll be the barometer. If they can be competitive in their division, if they can find a way to be 500 or better, then all of a sudden you feel good about the overall direction of the Raiders program and them being able to, be additive moving forward to the identity that they established in 2025. So I think that's why I boil it down to the division for them, because if they can be competitive in this division, then they'll be competitive overall. I see the Raiders as a team that's going to flirt with being 500. I'm not sure whether or not they'll make it to the postseason,
right,
but I do think it's a team that can play a competitive brand of football, make themselves hard to beat by not making mistakes, be physically tough, and challenge every single opponent, make every single game a fourth quarter affair. They are that kind of team based on how their personnel It's just a matter of them going out there and executing Pete Carroll's vision.
It's always good to hear from a guy who's been there, done that, a guy that's played in the league, a guy that's won a Super Bowl championship, a guy that's played for multiple organizations and kind of knows how things go. But love the conversation with Canty, love the part about Pete Carroll, and even, the offense under Chip Kelly and talking about going to run the hell out of the ball. And when he said what he said on Unsportsmanlike the other day, where he said, BYOB, bring your own blocker, I thought that was classic. We literally wrote it on the window in our radio station, on the studio window. We literally wrote BYOB, bring your own blocker. That's who Ashton Jeanty is. And that's what he did at Boise State. And hopefully this offensive line comes together so he doesn't have to worry about BYOB. Hopefully he's got that offensive line in place. And if he does, then you know that he's going to get a ton of carries, just like CC said, and obviously Brock Bowers is going to be heavily involved, but that play action pass is something that Chris Canty was talking about Geno Smith does so well. So hopefully you enjoyed that part of the conversation from our radio show on Wednesday. Your calls and texts will close out the show, 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about another great sponsor here on the show, and that is Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, or get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So you don't want to let financial opportunities slip through the cracks, right? Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Raider fan 1972. It's a quick one. Calling as a longtime Raider fan, has a bold prediction based off how he feels about this team and, more importantly, its leadership. Here's Raider fan 1972.
This is Raider fan 1972. I've been a Raiders fan since 1983. I honestly believe this team is going to be a lot better than people think with the right leadership. I honestly believe we have something cooking here. Within the next 3 years, we will be in the Super Bowl. The nucleus of young talent we have, the coaching staff, and just how hard these players want to win, or how much these players want to win, is more than people realize. Buckle in, get ready for the show. Raider fan 1972. Love you, Q. Bye.
72, thanks so much for the call. But you're a fan since 83. I'll let you figure that out. But it's cool. Great stuff. I'm not mad at the 3-year plan either. That would be awesome, especially for the coach, right? Coach Carroll's got the 3-year deal, gets the Raiders to the big game, and 3 years, that'd be epic, right? Sign me up for that. I will take it. It's been a long time coming. I'll definitely sign up for that. That would be a great way for Coach Carroll to really solidify his legacy and get the Raiders clearly back on the right track. But that process, it has to start this year. This is not one of those, well, we'll be better next year. No. Got to be better this year. That's why I started off with 8 to 9 wins. I feel very comfortable with that. Doubling what they did last year, I think you would be on your way to that 3-year plan. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of other teams in the division that have something to say about that. But if you start to handle your business, that's what's most important. Just like you heard from CC in segment number 2, where he's talking about you got to at least go 500 in the division. You got to go at least 500 in the division. You do that, you're giving yourself a chance. So thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from DJ in South Central LA. Hey, Q, DJ from South Central LA. I know this is a non-Raider related. Whose record plaque is that sitting on the wall behind you over your left shoulder? The one above the Akon plaque. I can't make it out. It's been bugging me for at least a year. Other than that, you and RA, keep up the great work. I enjoy the show. Raiders. All right, let me see. Oh, that'd be Erykah Badu. I had to look myself. I was like, hold on. It's either India Ari or it's Erykah Badu. But yeah, it's definitely Erykah Badu. They don't really make plaques like that anymore. When I was a music director back at Q97 in Fresno, record labels used to give them out all the time. And my boss, he had a bunch of them. So he gave me the India Ari and the Erykah Badu. He gave me that right when I kind of started. Then I earned the Akon one. That's why my name's on that one. I have a high five one that I got when I was in Waco, Texas. I got that from the record label as well. What else? Yeah, is that all? I guess that's it. Yeah, and then, so that's it. But yeah, there you go. So that's the answer to the riddle. And it's funny, don't feel bad. I've had so many people ask me that. Like, hey, what's above Akon? Or who is that? Is that Akon? It's so funny. People always talk about that. So thanks so much for the text, my man. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Harrison in Austin, Texas. He's calling to talk about the Raider fan base and the vibe he gets from the fans, even here on the Locked On Raiders podcast as it pertains to the voicemail line. Here's Harrison in Austin, Texas.
What's up, Q? Harrison in Austin, Texas. Calling again, just about Raider Nation, man. I can't get it. I can't understand it enough how we become so negative. Like, just let the coaches coach, let the players play, let it do what it do, man. Like, I honestly wouldn't mind having you get rid of this last segment because everybody that calls in is just so negative, man. And the people that come on here and try to, disrespect your credibility and everything like that, it's just ridiculous at this point. We can't just be fans of a football team anymore because so much time in our life is invested in this team, which, by all means, go right ahead. I got this tattooed on my skin, but it's so negative. It's not fun to be a part of this fan base anymore because everyone is just so down in the dumps all the time, and they just don't want to let anything happen. The confirmation bias has to be almost instant with this fan base now, and it's ridiculous, man. We suck for 20 years. Who cares if we suck for 20 more? At least we still get to go out here and watch our team do what it do, and we got players like Max. We got a coach like Pete. We got players like Jacoby, Jack Besh, all these players that want to go out there and go hard, JPJ, for this team, all these guys. Let's just appreciate them while we can. Appreciate them while we're on the team. And like I said, Q, if you get rid of that last segment so we don't have to hear these negative fans anymore, I really honestly wouldn't be too mad at you, bro. But anyways, let's keep it on a positive note. Let's go ahead and beat these 49ers this week. Raider Nation, let's go, baby.
Harrison, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And you know how it is, man. It's been a long time since this team has been consistently good, right? We've seen pockets of them being good, right? I mean, Super Bowl loss, 2016, 2021. I mean, that's a shame that I can boom, 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 rattle it off like that. That's really it. So the fan base, who I say all the time, is the only thing that's been consistent about the Raiders. I get why the fan base gets upset and is ready to say, oh, here we go, same old Raiders. Because, again, that's what the Raiders have proven, right? I mean, it's the fan base that is always – pumped up, supporting, getting fired up, like, oh, no, I'm not going to fall for that again this year. Then all of a sudden gets closer. Oh, here we go. Fired up. Let's do it. So, I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster. It is. Not to mention, we live in a microwave society. And I'm not just talking about, with football or with the Raiders. I mean, in general. Like, we want everything right now. None of us want to be patient for anything. And I can speak for that for myself. I don't want to wait for anything. I want everything immediately. And that's just not how it works, right? You've got to work. You've got to build. You've got to grind, right? It takes time. And when the time is right, that's when it's going to hit. And I'm not saying that, it's okay and it makes excuses for, the fan base that gets all angry and, calls in and is angry at me or angry at you or angry at whoever, whatever the case may be. But I get it. I get it. Maybe it's just me getting a little bit older. I don't know. But that's the thing, man. We live in a microwave society where everything that we are supposed to do, we're supposed to pop in the microwave for 60 seconds, press start, and then bing, it's good. And matter of fact, half the time, don't even wait for the 60 seconds to get wrapped up. It gets to about 45. You're like, all right, that's good enough. It's done. Nah, it really isn't. So it is what it is. I mean, look, even over the summer, we got to a point where we started getting some toxic calls, and we still get some every once in a while. But now that there's actually football activities that are back, you could tell it's a lot different now. Now it's really more focused on what it should be focused on as opposed to silly things that were going on during the summer. But thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate hearing from you. Up next, got a text from D-Mac in Oakland. Says, hey, Q, it's D-Mac from Oakland. Thank you and your team for giving Raider Nation a voice on your platform. I want to bring some positive awareness that I acknowledge. But first, I'm going to respond to you and Richie about JPJ. Personally, I think that was a cap about his technique. He's not getting beat, and he's holding down his own. Technique, if Larry Bird and Reggie Miller had to shoot with proper technique, they'd never become Hall of Famers. But let's move on to the good stuff, and people don't bring this up. Our coaches are underrated as a staff. Looking back at the preseason game, that was all Pete, Kelly, and PG. Raiders tied a game and potentially could have won it while playing terrible first-half football. In the past 9 out of 10, that was a game we lose. Raider Nation, I smell something special cooking in the kitchen. D-Mac in Oakland. So there you go with the text. Appreciate you. Going back to the JPJ, the technique, and Richie Incognito, I trust what Richie says a lot more than I trust what I say. right, when it comes to the offensive line. This is a guy who's been there, done that. Not to mention Lincoln Kennedy, the great Lincoln Kennedy talks about stuff like that all the time. Technique. Now, you can get by on your natural ability, which I believe JPJ has done and has gotten us all excited about him because he's a guy that is looking to hit somebody and he's looking for those, those pancakes. He just wants to smack people around. That's fantastic. But to Richie's point, you've got to learn the technique first, right? Once you get the technique down, then you know what you're doing and you can consistently do it as opposed to being inconsistent. That's really where he's coming from. So I don't think that it was Cap. I just think that we all put in our mind that, oh, JPJ is Steve Wisniewski or JPJ is Richie Incognito or JPJ is going to be the next Hall of Fame offensive lineman for the Raiders. And he's got a long ways to go. He's only a second-year guy, right? And in college, he's able to kind of mask what he might not really have known. And all he did is just go out there and be the toughest dude on the block. But in the NFL, everybody is good. Everybody at some stage of the game, I don't care where it was the best what they do at whatever position it was, right? They were the best of the best. And that's how they get into the NFL. So I understand where you're coming from, but I do like to lean on a guy like Richie Incognito or a guy like Lincoln Kennedy that points out what's going on the offensive line and where they're seeing issues and why they're seeing guys put in certain positions. Like JPJ, for example, had 14 penalties last year. 14 of them. It's too much, right? You just can't do it. And as Lincoln points out all the time, he had a lot of false starts. He had a lot of penalties that you're at home, you shouldn't be the snap count. You should be able to, not hurt your team. He had penalties where he dove over the pile after the play was over. Can't do it. Right? They won't allow you to do that in this day and age. It's a fine line between playing whistle to whistle, playing just past the whistle, and then hurting your team. And he did that. Like I said, 14 penalties last year. So I get it. Again, there's technique, there's consistency, right? There's being able to play without thinking and being able to do it the right way. I think there's something there. Even though I get it, it's easy for us all to sit there and look and say, oh, yeah, JPJ is the best center. I don't think that we actually really know that. We just believe that from what we think that we saw his rookie year. Thanks so much for the text. I definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Dominique in the Show Me State. I only got time for a couple more. He's calling to talk about the biggest issue that's been talked about with this team. And, of course, that's the offensive line, the center and the right guard situation. Here's Dominique in the Show Me State.
Hey, Q, it's Dominique from the Show Me State. How you doing, brother? I know it's been a minute. I've definitely been listening every day. Just been busy, man, and usually, I just take it easy around this time of year. This is kind of when I start getting, ramped back up and back into it, but just taking a break and just taking everything in, not getting too high, not getting too low on anything. One thing I did want to touch on, though, the JPJ situation. You cannot tell me, no one can tell me that Jordan Meredith is a better center than JPJ. I'm sorry. I'm just not going for it. I am a huge Jordan Meredith fan. Huge. I was glad we brought him back. He played really, really well last year at guard. JPJ played really good at center. Why this year are the Raiders overthinking it and not having JPJ at center? I don't understand it. And I'll be honest, I don't trust it. Pete Carroll has always struggled when it comes to O-lines. Even in Seattle when they won the Super Bowl, they've never had a good O-line. And that's something that definitely scares me. I don't know if JPJ is rubbing people the wrong way. I don't know who he's pissed off or what's going on, but there is no way in hell Meredith should be starting at center over JPJ. And like I said, this comes from a huge Jordan Meredith fan. I think the Raiders need to just stop overthinking it, put JPJ, start him at center, and start Jordan Meredith at guard. Let me know what you think, Q. Like I said, I'm not getting too crazy over one preseason game, but when it comes to the O-line, I am a little skeptical. So just let me know what you think. I'll be listening as always, brother. Appreciate you. Talk to you later, Q.
Dominique, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And again, understand what you're saying, just like I understood what my guy D-Mac in Oakland was saying, right? I mean, but I don't think that we know that JPJ is a better center than he is a guard. He might end up being, as Adam Butler said the other day, all-pro guard. This dude's big. He's a mauler, and that might be exactly what they need at that position, right? I mean, so Jordan Meredith is fitting the center position better. I'm just going to trust the coaches and let them coach until it's proven wrong, right? I mean, I think that's the least that we can do. We trusted this coaching staff when they came in. We trusted John Spytek when he put this team together. It was all believe in Pete, we believe in Pete. Then all of a sudden there was one thing that we didn't like, or one thing that we didn't expect, I should say, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. These guys don't really know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not an offensive line coach. I've never pretended to be an offensive line coach. I don't think that you're an offensive line coach. So I just kind of have to, tend to believe that they know what they're doing. And you're absolutely right when it comes to what Pete Carroll did in Seattle. Did not have great offensive lines. Didn't. Tom Cable was there, matter of fact, most of the time. But from everything that I'm hearing, this is why they have this situation with the offensive line the way they have it set up, and they believe they're getting the best 5 out there. So instead of having JPJ at center and maybe Alex Kappa at the right guard position where Kappa just wasn't very good, and say, you know what? Yeah, JPJ is a really good center. He could be a better guard. He could definitely be a better guard than Kappa, and he's a better guard than Meredith, and Meredith is going to do just fine as a center position. Like, those are other things you have to think about as well. Their job is to get the best 5 guys on the offensive line. Just like that, the best 5. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. And look, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out immediately, I'm sure they're going to go ahead and switch things up. Just like Pete Carroll told me on Sunday when I asked him, if we don't get it right immediately, we'll go into the regular season still trying to figure it out. But thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. We'll close out with a quick text from Skylar in New Jersey. He says, yo, Q, Skylar from New Jersey, first year as a Raider fan and listener to your show. Love what you do for the Raider Nation. Really looking forward to our preseason home game against the 49ers. Really want to see our offensive line improve because if we don't, it's going to be a long season. Proud to be a member of Raider Nation Raiders. That's Skylar in New Jersey. And yeah, Skylar, that starts today. Starts today with the joint practice against the 49ers. We'll learn a lot about the team today. Obviously, we'll talk about them on tomorrow's show as we close out really strong. And then we'll go into the preseason game coming up on Saturday, 1 p.m. kickoff at Allegiant Stadium. Myself and Lincoln Kennedy on the pregame, JT and EA, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, I should say, EA, on the call on the radio side of things, and Jason Horowitz, Kirk Morrison, and Rich Gannon on the TV side of things. But again, first thing first, joint practice coming up later on this morning. Also this morning, depending on what time you're listening to us, we got the Raiders Squad Show with Chantel Chan, myself, and Lincoln Kennedy. We'll be talking about preseason week number 2, the depth chart, a wide receiver that apparently the Raiders are linked to, a veteran wide receiver, and, of course, other news and notes. 1 hour long, 1 hour strong, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So that's coming up later on this morning, and then we'll jump right into the joint practice with the San Francisco 49ers. So until Friday, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.